I guess we're live. On the air. It is September 9th,
That's the stuff.
2020. We've made it all the way to September. I mean, it's kind of wild, but this is Two Queers in a Truck, even though we're not in a truck this week. We are pretending we're in a truck.
We should get virtual backgrounds that looks like,
we should.
Like
a little background. Looks like we're in a truck.
Yeah.
It'd be just kind of hilarious. And you usually drive anyway, because we're usually in your SUV. But I am Jenny-Jaymes Christian, and I'm here with
Christian Cano. Hello.
So I've got to bring it up. The Trump boat rally on Lake Travis this last weekend, and they're definitely going to get the 10 foul hat award. These fools packed so many boats and boated. As you know, as an avid boater and outdoors people, you guys camp and you'll go to the lake and you have boats, you have watercraft, and so you're experienced in driving boats and being on the water. As you know, when you're sitting there crossing over people's wakes and churning the water, that with being a boat captain and being responsible, it takes a lot of churn to flip 4 boats. Like, you have really got to be breaking a lot of maritime rules to have done that on Lake Travis. For people that have not been on Lake Travis, it's a decent sized lake. It's not a little pond. And for this many people to get out there and just churn up the water that bad to sink 4 boats. There's 4 boats at the bottom of Lake Travis right now with tons of Trump flags, because these idiots got out there and are just gone crazy like they're a bunch of 19-year-olds. And these are grown adults. These are like 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old people that got pulled out of the lake. Many of them refuse to wear their life preserver, their life protection as well. And I'm just like, it's just almost so symbolic of Trumpism is they sunk their own boat, literally sunk their own kind.
Well, I mean, exactly kind of what you said. I mean, first of all, I mean, you have to be careful. Boating can be dangerous anyway, just with you, backing up, or if you have to put your boat in the water, or even when you're around boats, I mean, you have to be really, really careful tying up. And that's why people have accidents and all kinds of stuff. So of course, the one of our saying is, what could go wrong? I mean, it's like, plus, I don't know if you saw those pictures, a lot of they put flags on things that weren't meant to have flags. So then they became like sails, because they put them on antennas, on fishing rods, on all kinds of stuff. And if you've ever had we just have a small American flag, and when you're going and you're driving, you almost have to wrap it up because it'll start flapping and your top will start shaking. So I mean, there was a lot of. I'm
just the performative macho stupidity of putting so many flags and going so fast, which had to just sounded like all hell was breaking loose on that lake. It just explains the psyche of these Trumpsters, these fanatic, rabid Trumpsters that come hell or high water, they'll sink their own boat just to show support. And I think it's just so bizarre. I would love to be a fly on the wall when they're explaining to their insurance company why they're placing this claim. Is that, yes, I was out there with these other jackasses, and we had flags everywhere, and we were playing Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA. And before I knew it, they were pulling me out of the lake, and the Twitter thing that I shared with y'all and other people, I've watched it probably 4 or 5 times a day since that all happened, and that guy posted that. And the guy's a real boater. It wasn't a comedy skit, which even makes it funnier, but just almost like they're shocked that it happened. I'm going, you put that many boats and you full throttle it, like if they just would have done a nice, safe cruise, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It just is so bizarre. It's such a bizarre, it just really punctuates the
It just,
kickoff to election season, because we're in the middle of election season right now. This is the big push.
yeah.
And these guys, they came in with a bang. They said, let's go sink some boats on Lake Travis. Let's just show how big of Americans we are.
Well, you know, they've had these boat things, I guess, all around the country.
Yeah,
And they've kind
they've
of
had them here
been,
like Norman.
yeah. They had, and they had, I think they had it in Lake Wiley also this Saturday.
Yeah.
Or one Saturday, something like that. And so, you know, it's one of those, I don't know. It's just, I first of all, I just think it's hilarious because I don't know, maybe, I don't know, you and I have talked about this before, but do you ever remember anyone ever having the flag of a president? I mean, I had an Obama t-shirt,
Sure.
an
Your
Obama
normal.
bumper sticker.
Your bumpers,
Yeah.
your bumper stickers.
I never had like
maybe,
a flag.
but these guys wear these Making America Great hats like there's some kind of military uniform, which is hilarious because Captain Bone Spurs did not serve. He was a draft dodger. And then these flags that you see on pickup trucks are usually the really beat up. Either they're beat up pickup trucks or they're the real tiny ones. But you see them all over town, you know, with dirty Santa Claus driving the truck, and you see this certain type of person. This, you know, and I don't know if it's the same person that didn't make the football team in high school or couldn't, you know, make the grade to make it into the military. Their scores were too low, whatever it is, but it's this performative patriot wannabe that just feels so enabled and so empowered in this era of Trump. And it's just like, you know, you're still the kid that got knocked out first in dodgeball. You're still that person, and you know, and knocked out by somebody like me, you know, and it just is so bizarre. You don't see Democrats acting like this. You just don't see it.
No, you don't. And also, and I know you and I've had this conversation before, and you've gotten mad at me sometimes when I've said this. But this is really, I mean, this is such bad marketing for, like, I mean, you're that's what you do. You're a marketer. Don't you think that, like, that image of, you know, the person you're talking about, you know, with the Make America Great and this, they're doing such a disservice to the president because, or to Trump in a way, because, or at least if I was Trump, I'd be like, that's not really what if I'm looking at that and I go, is this what great America looks like? You're what it looks like? Then that's not what I want to be. If that makes sense. I don't know if that.
But see, I think they think that they're acting just like him, and truthfully, they are. I mean, he has these same behaviors, so he's enabling people that had these behaviors before. Like, they didn't wake up one day and say, "I'm going to be a jackass. I'm going to sink my boat to the bottom of Lake Travis." These selfish behaviors were already there. That's why we've had so many problems with race relations and slavery. These behaviors began 400 years ago at the beginning of our republic in our country. Is that it's a very specific class of white men, very conservative, very selfish, very religious, very domineering, that throughout history has screwed up our country. And they're the same ones that wrote into the Constitution that Black people were not a complete human being. They were like 4/5 or 3/5 of a human being. They were the same ones that said women couldn't vote. They were the same ones that only white male landholders could vote. These are the same people. These are the descendants of those type of people that had that mentality. Because our forefathers were scumbags. They were absolute scumbags. They were bigots. They were racists. They were homophobes. And they set up a constitution that built an oligarchy. We weren't a democracy. I still don't think we're really a true democracy. And they set up to rig the game, and they've kept a lot of people down for a long time. And I think that's why you're seeing so many protests now, is people are just sick of it. They're just like, you know what? We're just done. We are just done with this. And I think the presence of these fools, I think they act just like Trump. I think they are very representative of what Trump preaches. And when he says it's okay for that Kenosha shooter to shoot people, and you know, a normal president President Bush, Papa Bush, Obama, Clinton. We'll just use the 4 most recent presidents. All 4 of them would have gone on TV and denounced the Kenosha shooting, and would have condemned that 17-year-old and said, "Hey, that's not what we want. That's not America." You even heard W do that recorded thing this year that they played, and when W is the voice of reason, you're talking about a guy that started 2 wars with countries that had never attacked us and killed 500,000 people of color around the world. When he's the voice of reason during COVID for the Republicans, because their current sitting president isn't.
Yeah. So
how far have the conservatives and the Republicans fallen from grace? I mean, like,
we talked about this after the coffee show, and I was going to ask Dr. B and Barb if they have the same saying, but we have the same back in Texas, probably everywhere. That boy ain't right, and that's exactly when you look at Trump, you're like, that boy ain't right. I mean, it's like
he's just a drool cup away from just being sitting in the corner, just he's just, it's just there's something. There was something off about him 4 or 5 years ago when and it was still, and he's it's almost like he's so eat up. And I was going to say this on the first show, and I was going to bring it up, but we just ran out of time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he inherited a pandemic playbook from Obama. Mm-hmm. The Obama administration in 2009, 2010, 2011 sat down and made a very eloquent pandemic playbook in response to H1N1 and SARS, and they consulted with the World Health. They compiled a ton of data and information and said, "Here's a pandemic playbook." And Trump refused to use it. Like, he literally, it was sitting there like, break the glass in case of pandemic emergency. And he took it and just basically threw it in the trash and said, we're not going to follow any of that. And there was a lot of really smart data that came from China and Europe and all these other countries and the World Health Organization that we decided to defund. And we just, it's just like, he's got this obsession with Obama, for one thing. This is a really weird deal. So I don't know if somebody back in school that looked like Obama took his lunch money or something, or he's got this weird fetish about Obama, and just between the racism of the birther movement that Trump created, and just when Obama's name comes up, you can see him just flinch. I'm like, is it because he's so much smarter than you?
So there was a meme. I didn't have it in my folder immediately, but it's got Trump sucking a fudge pop, and I don't know if you've seen that one. And it says why he has such an obsession with Obama, and it's just.
Well, the best one is this Kraken-looking creature with Obama's head on it.
Oh yeah.
Thinking those Trump votes, and I'm just like, in the Poseidon for Biden, memes about the boat rally. It's just, he seems so eat up with being anti-Obama, like all of his policies, like he's reversed so many Obama executive orders, and he's just gone out of his way to say, if Obama would do that or has done that, I'm going to do the exact opposite. And I'm going, it's so bizarre because Obama didn't do that with W. When W, when Obama took over for W, there were certain things that W was doing that Obama continued to do for continuity because, they wouldn't, like, our military being overseas. Obama didn't come in and go, well, that's a W thing, I'm just going to pull them all out. He continued some of the policies, whether I agree with it or not, Obama did a lot of things that made sense just for continuity's sake. And like Trump just came in and did like a full stop. Like he was on the highway and just did an e-brake and go, if Obama did it, I'm not going to have anything to do with it.
But that was almost in a way, even when President Obama was president, that so I think when I don't
Uh-oh.
President Trump hate on Obama. Uh,
I don't know if it froze up on Facebook or not. Oh, it's just me. Hopefully he'll log back in here pretty soon. I don't know if we're off the air. We're still live on Facebook. So, hey, welcome back.
that just like zapped.
you just, I was sitting there going, oh no, he's gone now. You were locking up a little bit, and I could see on Facebook you were freezing up a little bit, and then you were just gone. So I kept talking for a second or two. But pretty much, I don't think any of the stuff you were saying about Obama and Trump came through because you on your screen because I was watching it on Facebook on my phone, and you were pretty much froze. And you're frozen again, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on a second. I've got unstable internet.
So basically, your internet's like the
doing their
really unstable.
The kids must be doing their schoolwork. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're still lagging a little bit. Your internet must be really, really slow where you're at.
It's those darn kids in school.
I know, getting that
sucking up all my bandwidth.
I did see where T-Mobile is giving away, I think, what was it, 1 million or 2 million or 50 million hotspots to students.
Oh, wow.
So I think a lot of the big phone companies like the Sprint and T-Mobile and all of them are going to probably start giving out, because they have these little mobile hotspots that pull off a cell signal rather than the bandwidth of hardwired cable.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant.
Well, I think that's what the city council had voted on to give.
Yeah.
I think they need $4 million to get 16,000 hotspots, and the city council has donated $1 million. Private sector has donated $1 million. CMS is $1 million, and I forgot
probably the county.
Yes, something like that. So they're going to do 16,000 hotspots for individuals. So I need to see how we can get one of those hotspots so we don't have to pay for internet. So
those hotspots you can get from your phone company. Oh, you mean like one of the educational ones?
Yes. Hey,
we need to roll back into high school.
we need the hookup.
That way we can go back and learn all the words that Stephen teaches us every week when he cracks on.
God, I mean, just for our internet here, what's like 1,200 a year, at least, maybe at least that. I mean, so imagine if we can just get one of those hotspots. So
that's hilarious.
I watch. Someone's going to report me like the.
Christian, he went on the air and said he wants to steal one of those hotspots from kids.
That's right. So I forgot what we were going to talk about. We were going to talk about. I've completely forgot.
Oh, you mean from what we said we were going to do from the coffee show?
Yeah.
I think we were talking about like at the end of the show we were talking about local and federal control.
Yeah.
And we talked about politics and money.
Yeah.
And we talked about we brought up next week's show a little bit that it will be the 100th coffee show.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Show.
Of course, we racked up a lot of episodes this year because we were doing twice a week there for about 3 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We for about 2 months we did twice a week.
March, April, and I think the first week or two of May. When did we? I think we cut it off at Memorial Weekend. That was when we stopped doing that twice. When we went to basically stage 2 of the reopening.
Yep.
Which I think is super bizarre because all these reopened people are saying, we're still closed and all that. I'm going, well, we're at stage 2.5 of the reopening. So how are we closed? Like, even at the most closed America was, 89% of the people were still working. So I never quite understood how this hysteria, and I guess it's because they couldn't, some of these people, I'm surprised that they're advocating for gyms to open when I see them. But, you know, I'm more like, do you remember of a gym? Like, do they know that?
But girl, you're stealing my jokes.
Well, I mean, or they're so mad that Chili's was closed down. You know,
I can't say that because I promised you no body shaming on this show.
Well, I didn't say that they were overweight. I'm just like, some of them, like I can see them take the stairs and they're huffing and puffing. I'm like, cardio will fix that, you know.
Well, it's very similar to when we were looking at Dirty Santa and all those guys. They had a certain look, right? And that was not the look that people are going to go, oh, those are really hot guys. They're a lot. Your first instinct is, now I know why your wife wanted you to get out of the house. It's
you guys go protest the homosexuals now, and you know, and on that note, it is so weird how eat up they are about gay sex. Like, you know, when I watched them and they kept coming back to it and kept calling everybody gay that was there. I mean, some of us are, but not all of us. And how they kept coming back at it, and I'm going, you when you speak about something, and when you're obsessed about something, there has to be part of you that is attracted to it, or it's on the top of your mind. When that is your sole focus of your hate speech, is that everybody's gay and everybody's going to hell. I'm like, are you feeling guilty because you are closetly gay and
we
can't own it?
Well, I mean, we've already determined that 2 shows ago or 3 shows ago. Remember, we talked about how a lot of these, they're trying to distract people from really what, you know, what, that's what I want to talk about. So what do you think, speaking of Cynthia, so, you know, Dan Bishop was at the Trump thing last night, and, you know, he's really, he's always been connected to Trump. I mean, he's really kind of been connected.
Oh, he's been all in the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, he's been drinking that Kool-Aid since when he first ran, because he's not a really dumb politician. He knows to hook on to something, and even to the point where when all this was happening and people were turning on Trump because of the pandemic and stuff, he's still hanging on. And he's a no masker and all this kind of stuff. Are you surprised that Cynthia's not going after? I'm a little bit surprised that she's not connecting him to Trump like they are connecting her to. Well, they haven't really connected her a lot. Give you an example. The Cal Cunningham commercials against Tillis are the Tillis commercials against Cal Cunningham. They have Cal Cunningham saying he's going to raise taxes, and they go, and there's Joe Biden. They're together. So Tillis is purposely connecting as if though that's going to hurt him. It actually may help him because people like Joe Biden. So it's like, you know, it's not a bad thing. I wonder how come Cal's not connecting Tillis to Trump.
I think the reason Dan Bishop is not going after Cynthia as much is one, because being a, or vice versa, why she's not connecting Bishop to Trump. I think for one is that a lot of those counties are kind of rural, and she doesn't want to get into identity politics because there's probably still a lot of people out there that are supporting Trump.
Yeah.
I think too, quite frankly, she's so different than Dan Bishop. You know, she's a powerful Black woman and got a powerful voice. I think she's really speaking to her message and what she, as somebody that's been a lifelong resident of District 9 and is so passionate about the district because it's her home. Yeah. I think that's what she's trying to sell it on, is she's trying to differentiate herself. I don't know whether that's a winning strategy or not. Time will tell. We'll know in a couple months.
I mean, I thought about you when I was thinking about that, because last week I was contemplating on, as we get towards the final push I want to volunteer for a couple of campaigns. One of them is Wendy Davis in Texas, who is her race right now is considered a toss-up. So I do want to volunteer, not only virtually phone banking, but I may even go to Texas and help if I don't know, we'll see what happens. And then my parents' district, District 6 in the East Fort Worth area, is considered leaning Republican. It's within 4 points. And the guy that's the Republican guy is so pro-life, but he's also tied very closely to Trump. And so their message is, if you vote for him, you're voting for Trump, because Trump is so hated. Trump is so hated in my parents' district that that's, I guess, is a message. So then when I looked up District 9, it's not even the national polling or whatever. First of all, there's not really a lot of polling done because they don't really consider it to be competitive, but it's not even leaning, it's strong Republican. It's like a DR +9. So as I was looking at that, something has to really happen. Bishop's a really smart guy. He's not going to do something really stupid like Pittenger did. He's just going to hang on to the Trump stuff and just keep doing it. May not even acknowledge Cynthia because he doesn't have to.
Well, that's the advantage of being.
I was thinking if they hired you as of right now to run Cynthia's campaign, of course, don't tell all the secrets because you don't want to tell the opposition secrets. Is there something that something has to be?
I would hit home him being the author of the bathroom bill and what he cost North Carolina, how he's a national embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't let that go. And then I would try in that way, I would tie him to Trump in the military transgender thing. Mm-hmm. I would tie him to the face of bigotry.
Yes, exactly.
And as a very powerful Black woman, the face of bigotry always shifts from group to group to group. If they're not going after Black Lives Matter, then they're going after, marriage equality. If they're not going after marriage equality, they shifted to transgender people and bathrooms and public facilities and the military. And so they have this Gatling gun of targets that they've always targeted. You can go back to the 60s and, when the equal rights things started coming into play and they started becoming law, they shifted from that to raiding bathhouses and gay clubs and gay spaces, and started passing laws that trans women could not present as their true selves. And so, again, conservatives, whether they were Republican or Democrat at the time, they go after certain target markets because, one, they know that always works. Division and chaos always works. But vice versa, pointing that out, it also can be risky, but in her case, she needs to take risks. She can't play it safe. Well, as somebody that is noticeably behind the polls, the same way you see with Tillis. Tillis, in many polls, is either in a dead heat with Cal or he's behind Cal.
Now he's in his own commercials now because he's so scared.
and Cal has done a brilliant job of tying Tillis completely to Trump. Now, this is white guy versus white guy. So here's the different dynamic. Yeah. Cynthia Wallace has the advantage and the disadvantage. The advantage is because she is a Black woman running against a white guy. She could establish, we need different voices in Washington. We need different faces in Washington that don't just represent an elite few. Mm-hmm. And then she also, I think, can go towards the bigotry of a Trump, the Trump team, and then highlight, Bishop has that same history. This is why he aligns with Trump, is because of the bathroom bill and how it hurt North Carolina. And the bathroom bill hurt North Carolina as much as the pandemic did, but at least the pandemic was a global pandemic versus an unnecessary stuff like bathroom bills and telling people what to do. I mean,
we know that what 76% of of North Carolinians believe in wearing face coverings. That includes Republicans and Democrats and everybody, even rural people. So the fact that Dan Bishop is basically just I don't know the term, is it touting or he's just flaunting?
Promoting.
Yeah,
he
he's just
care. Yeah, he's in that forest.
Yeah.
You know, forest is the same way. He's having meetings indoors, rallies indoors with no mask on, and it's just insane. It's irresponsible. But it was just as irresponsible to pass the bathroom bill.
Oh, no, exactly.
And here's a nice connection too. The Charlotte Observer did a poll in 2016, a couple months after all the hoopla happened, and 70% of North Carolinians were against the bathroom bill.
Yeah.
And so I think the general public in general is against stupidity.
Yeah.
And both with the bathroom bill and the no mask crowd, they're kind of equally stupid.
That's why I guess hopefully one of her persons will watch the show later or something, but I mean, we're in the final push. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm watching her tweets. I'm looking at her postings. I'm looking at his postings. He's basically completely ignoring her. I mean, he doesn't even mention her. You wouldn't even think, you wouldn't even know he's actually has an election. He's raised $3 million. She's raised almost 350,000, 400,000. She can't really afford television, maybe some radio, but she can do mail drops of, of a mail coming to us talking about the bathroom bill, connecting him to not wearing masks, those things, because at the end of the day, the same reason some people may not be voting for Trump because they're just tired of that kind of craziness. We need to convince, or she needs to convince people that, do you want someone like Trump in there during or do you want someone like me in there when we have these cases? Do you want someone whose son is spray painting, causing chaos at NC State, not wearing masks and stuff like that? I don't know how
she needs to definitely sell the common sense, like, let's restore common sense back to District 9 into America. Yes. That I'm going to be your national representative and I'm going to represent the whole district, and that he's the kooky few.
Yes.
And if you can paint him as a crackpot, which he is, so that's going to be very easy to do.
Yes.
Is connect him to the crazy extremes, the fringes, and make that parallel. But most of all, state your case too. That hey, I'm going to restore common sense. I've got good old District 9 horse sense, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to restore sanity to this district once and for all. And I think if she can paint him as the person he really is, because he really is this, just like Forrest is too. I think you can get more votes that way. They are doing door hangers in District 9 because ID9 is distributing them right now.
So I'm wondering if there's, I mean, we'll never know until after the election. They may not even tell us, but I'm wondering, I don't necessarily understand. She's running like she's an incumbent. I mean, she's not, she's running as if though she's not running against a normal person. She's running against a Trump-ish kind of person. And you can't run against someone like that, like you would, let's say you're running against someone who's normal. And she's running normal. And so what I mean by that is that it's almost as if though she is, I don't really understand.
I guess the best way to run against it's the way Biden's running against Trump, which is painting Trump as what he is. You know, you don't even have to exaggerate things. You can look at these extremists like a Bishop or a Trump or a Forrest that have left the common sense lane and appeal to the moderates of the district too. Like, I think that district has got a lot of independents and a lot of moderates. I might be wrong on this. I think even the Democrats down there tend to be more moderate because it is a more rural district compared to Alma Adams's district, for example, and where you have a lot more progressives and more city folk. And so I think her biggest selling point is to go, hey, you know, we want to restore sanity. I want to be the common sense candidate. I want to show the history of Dan Bishop, to show the recent history. Like, we don't have to go back to 1965 to prove he's a kook. We can go back to 2016 and show his extremism then, that he hung his hat on hurting a vulnerable population and was happy to do so.
And we know, just like Obama is like the thorn in the side of Trump, the bathroom bill is a thorn in the side for Dan Bishop. Because you and I were at I remember we went, I think you were there with me and Barbara, or we went to go see the debate with the Republican people that were running. Reidenhauer was there. Dan Bishop.
I didn't go to that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think it was Kara that went with you on that one. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. During that primary, every time someone would bring up the bathroom bill, Dan Bishop would get really angry. His whole—
He wrote it.
No, he kept saying, that's a long time ago. That's just stuff people, you know, it's almost like, you know, oh, you're just bringing it up, you know, this is no, and that's the reason they're bringing it up, because they knew that he was vulnerable on it. His own party knows that he was vulnerable on it. And so, you know, if someone mentions the bathroom bill, he hates to be called Bathroom Dan. He hates that.
Well, but that's exactly who he is. And so you can't be afraid as a candidate.
Yeah.
If I was running instead of Cynthia, so I can only speak for myself, I would go right at it. I would go right at his biggest mistake, because he never denied it. He never stopped owning it. Here's the thing: after 2016 and during the 2019 election, the special election, him and his son both don't distance themselves from it either. So they still believe in the bathroom bill. They still believe, and the Republican Party still believes in it. So here's the other thing too. This is a very important point, is that going against Republicans, no matter who they are, it's not that I'm just pro LGBT. I'm pro common sense. And when you target a minority like the LGBT community, what does that say about your party? And the Republican Party in the last 5 or 6 years has been super aggressive, especially since they lost marriage equality, and the Supreme Court ruled on the side of sanity, saying people should be able to marry who they want if this is truly a free country. And I should be able to go to the bathroom where they so choose. Policing bathrooms is not a good look for any party. And we're continually seeing that from the Republican Party, even in 2020. So I think if I was a Democrat or anybody, one of my legs of my campaign would be attaching that bigotry to the Republican Party, because they're the ones doing it. It's not Democrats or anybody proposing these bills.
That's why I kind of wanted— I had a feeling I knew what you were going to say, but that's the reason I'm surprised with this final push. Because really, I kind of feel like a lot of people have already made the decision by Labor Day, but at this level with her, you know, some people may not still know exactly who Cynthia Wallace is in maybe some areas. I know she's spending a lot of time in Hope County, a lot of time in the rural areas, which I think is smart, because that's where she's either going to win or lose it, because there's more Democrats. So if she can get all those Democrats out, maybe it can offset the Union County Republicans. They're going to be coming out. But I'm surprised I haven't received any mail drops attacking Dan Bishop, because he is easy to attack, because he is crazy. He's kind of he's a normal person.
As you like to say, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know?
That's what I was going to say.
He is, you know, he is a typical Republican bigot that's anti-LGBT, and
he doesn't hide it. And he doesn't hide it.
Well, he wrote a bill over it. He cost McCrory the election because he recruited McCrory into doing it. And when McCrory was a willing participant and he deserved to lose the governorship, anybody that goes on air and is talking up why we should discriminate against trans people, that'd be the same as if he got on air and said, well, we need to get control of these Latinx people. They don't need to live in certain neighborhoods. We can't trust those Mexicans. They're all drug dealers, and just like Trump has said, saying all those new arrivals, well, they're all drug dealers and rapists.
But you know what, Jenny? I know we've talked about this before, but you and I often wonder how 54% of Latinx people can vote Republican in some elections. And I sent you that link about how in Florida, the Trump is leading the Latino vote in the polling right now, and I think, but Biden's leading in seniors, which is keeping them close. And we keep thinking, well, how the heck? But the good news is, like in my parents' district, 97% of Latinos are supporting Biden, and more of the white people, which is why it's so close in that district, because the Latino voters. So it's a different. But I really do believe that there are some Latinx people or Latinos, and maybe even some African American, Black, or whatever, that they overlook the attacks on LGBT people because to them at least it's not attacking us.
But there's a lot of homophobia in the Latinx and communities of color. I mean, we see this all the time with trans women of color. Yeah. The first community to abandon them is their own community. Most Black churches have a lot of homophobia in them, and I've been told that by trans women of color and gay men of color, that we thought we might get embraced by our home community. When we came out, we didn't. Yeah. And so that isolation from their houses of worship and all that, and Latinx and Black communities have always relied on their community churches, but those community churches have not progressed with the time, and you see this with evangelicals, and we see this even with some of our friends and cohorts that have published things on their Facebook that were anti-LGBT at times. And you see that religiosity struggle with the LGBT community, and they just have not modernized their thinking. They still are holding on to those conservative values.
Which to me is always just, it's always just crazy, because they have forgotten they were called wetbacks.
Yeah.
So
conservatives.
I know you don't like that term.
And they still do. Yeah. They still view. Yes. They still. Conservatives are still going to view you as just a Mexican. They're going to, even if you're El Salvadorian, they're going to look at you. Exactly. It's just those Mexicans. Those Mexicans are all drug dealers. They can't be here for legitimate reasons. They can't be doctors or lawyers. All those Mexicans, they're just wetbacks, and they're rapists and thieves, and they're stealing our jobs. And they've been in the Latinx community, been so demonized by the right. That's how I cannot see a Latinx person that has seen this recent history. This wasn't like 50 years ago. This is right now. We have our current sitting president that went after a federal judge that happened to be Mexican American. And said that Mexican judge went on air and attacked him, in the Trump University scam case. We've seen Trump supporters making fun of the Latinx community, and time and time again, those are conservatives. And that if I was Latinx, which I'm not, but if I saw that, I would never vote for a Republican again. I mean, I would just feel like, y'all demonized us for 4 years. No matter what my personal beliefs are about abortion or family planning or the LGBT community, at least the Democrats are offering a common sense.
Well, that's why I'm not surprised that as of right now, I mean, it could change dramatically. I'm not surprised that Trump is leading a little bit with Latinx voters in Florida, but he's not in Texas, California, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, because they're like a different, they're more Chicano, Tejano type. The Floridians are more, it's a different, yes. And they think they're white. I mean, not to think, I don't know how to say that without offending anyone, but I guess this is our two.
They're more conservative. So Cubans, if you look at like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz,
or Lady Cruz, or
they tend to be more of Cuban descent. The Cuban community is very conservative. More often than not, you see that a lot. You see that by the representatives in politics, whereas you see the El Salvadorian and Latinx people of Mexican descent. They tend to be more progressive. They tend to be more. Well, take a the former mayor and the HUD secretary Henry Cisneros, for example, very progressive, very much that very powerful advocate for housing and getting people out of homelessness and stuff like that, which are very much the politics of the progressive left. And so I think you see that strong divide because the Latinx community is not a homogeneous, monolithic community. There is a great divide between the different intersections. When you say Latinx, that person could be from South America. They could be Brazilian. They could be El Salvadorian, like Ruth, for example. And so you don't necessarily, from country to country, that'd be like saying, well, all California white people and all white people in Texas think the same because they're both big states with white people.
So I thought about this yesterday or today, and I thought about it on our show earlier, our coffee show, about our other co-host Jeff, and he's his platform and all that wonderful stuff. And I thought I was thinking to Jeff, I was like, if you're a libertarian like Jeff, or even sometimes like Steve as well, and you come to North Carolina is not known for libertarianism. Texas, maybe Arizona, maybe even sometimes Florida or whatever. So why would you be surprised that 76% of North Carolinians believe in wearing masks and approve of the way Cooper is handling it? That's the state this is. If that's not, I hate to say it like that, but if that's not what you wanted, why did you move to North Carolina? Move to South Carolina.
Well, and I think when you talk about the Old South, North Carolina in a lot of ways wrestles with the fact that it's the Old South, but it's modernizing very fast. And so it's modernizing under the feet of the traditional North Carolinians, the multiple, like Andrew's family, multi-generational, been here since 1862, that Old South mentality. And now that Charlotte's filling up with people from all over, including myself. In fact, this month will be 2 years in Charlotte. And so when you get that influx of new, Raleigh, the Triangle, these areas of the big cities of North Carolina, their demographics are changing because the cities are changing and they're becoming more progressive. They're becoming the 6 most populated counties in North Carolina all have Black Democratic sheriffs.
No, but that's my point, Jenny. Charlotte is pretty much, it's a Democratic city. It's a progressive city. It's not going to convert. It's not going the other way.
Well, it's not going to embrace libertarianism. It's not a market for libertarianism.
Exactly. Here,
the basic tenets of libertarianism is old conservative thought, which is super small government, decentralize everything, take away all the power. But that also means that you take away all the programs too. That progressive Democrats, when the birth of modern American progressivism became in the early 20th century, was, well, then it leaves big corporations to rule the country. And we had this huge economic divide that we now see again with our top billionaires in this country making a shit ton of money off COVID. I
guess that's my point. I mean, you and I would not be living here if we did not see it. This is not a perfect city by far,
No.
I mean, it's not a Dallas, it's not an Austin, maybe it's not anywhere near where I would like it to be progressive wise, but I do see it moving. I don't see it moving backwards. I see it moving forward.
Okay.
Or I wouldn't live here. And so if you are a Republican like Dan Bishop or a Libertarian like Jeff Scott, you have to face the reality that the demographics of this region, this city, is not going the way that that way. So you either have to accept it, or you're just going to be miserable for your entire life, because this city is not going to change the other way. No big city does that.
Southern big cities are predominantly progressive, except for maybe Florida.
Yeah.
Florida's just a weirdo. I mean, like, you could just dig a trench around the border of Florida and just make it its own island nation. But
that's what
Florida is a whole dumpster fire in itself. Like, I mean, think about the 2000 election and the hanging chads and just the kookiness of Florida. It's just kooky. It's so counterproductive to the rest of the New South. Even Alabama elected a Democratic senator, in a special election a year or two ago. And you're starting to see the South is starting, and especially in the big cities, these super large cities like Atlanta, Charlotte, Dallas, Austin, that they're moving more and more left. They're coming into the modern era. They realize infrastructure is needed. We've ignored infrastructure, and these extremists of the Republican and Libertarian parties, we don't need domestic programs. We don't need utilities. We don't need any of this. That's just more government spending. And I'm going. Stephen brought it up and said, well, there was a big corporate bailout in that first package. Technically, no. So it was less than a third of the money that was distributed in the CARES Act. The majority of the money went to individuals and small businesses. $700 billion of it did go to big companies, but that was almost a $3 trillion spending package, the first CARES Act.
So I guess in like the remaining 10 minutes, I guess, because I mean, you've got a feet in like a lot of fires. I mean, you're invited to young Republican meetings. I mean, we're all kind of like
a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And so you have the feel of those. What do you? I don't see a Republican, at least a Dan Bishop Republican. There has to be some major changes in the Mecklenburg County Republican Party for them to win anything other than maybe this city council district and maybe even Lady Tariq's. They can probably hang on to that district for a little bit longer, but that's changing too. South Charlotte, and so they have to do there has to be something major has to change, or they're going to be like Libertarians. They're going to be obsolete. They're just going to be the complainers, which they are the complainers anyway. That's all they do is complain at CMS, in this.
To point out, they're 4 seats. If they lose 4 seats in the North Carolina Senate, it'll be a deadlock.
Yeah,
it'll be a tie. And then if the Democratic candidate wins the lieutenant governorship, the Democratic Party will actually have the tiebreaker in the Senate. It wasn't that long ago they had a super majority.
Yes.
Where they could override a governor, and they've lost all that since then.
Yeah.
North Carolina's politics is shifting definitely to the left and definitely progressive, mainly as a reaction to the craziness of the Republicans in this old anti-LGBT racist rhetoric, anti-Black Lives Matter. And people are going, especially white people, and we've seen this at the demonstrations. There's a lot of white people going these things, and they're going, like up in Portland, you see tons of white people out in the streets going, no, Black Lives Matter. And they're extending the protests isn't a one and done or a one-off. This has been months of protests, and they're still continuing today. And this has now become a movement. If the Republican Party doesn't see it for what it is and start dismantling the institutions of racism, it'll be done for them. Republicans will be universally fired. which I think we're going to see a mass firing this fall.
Yeah.
And if you don't move with the times and recognize the sins of white conservatives over these last 400 years, when it comes time to be accountable for it, don't come crying to me.
Well, I mean, you've said that quite off and on, and I completely agree about, you have to have the ability to pivot, and many of them have not had, they don't have that ability, or they haven't. So we're still going to have we'll still have like pockets of like,
Sure.
Maybe like in Central Texas, or some, or maybe even North Carolina, like in Union County, or
you're always going to have the George Wallace Trump racists, no matter what party they belong to. They're no, as far as the libertarianism, I don't think it's universally adopted anyway, because you rarely get more than 1% of the vote.
Yeah,
I think libertarianism is so detached from reality that people look at it and go, well, we don't really understand what it is. And two, the biggest problem with libertarians is that they're trying to take us to an economic system that we've already had before. We've already had small government, no help, no advocates for the people, no governmental responsibility, no corporate responsibility. Just do what you want if you got money. And that's what libertarians are advocating.
And I think that's the challenge that libertarians have, is people are going to say, okay, those are great ideas. Show me a city, show me a country, show me a state that is running on those policies, and you can't find anything. And the reason is because they didn't work. And
that's the system we had in place at the turn of the 20th century. And it got us with robber barons and monopolies and runaway powerful corporations that basically were our government, people working 6 and 7 days a week in horrible conditions. But then we had the rise of the labor unions. We had the rise of progressive politics and bringing in Social Security and programs that created safety nets. You do have to have a certain amount of government offset. Otherwise, really powerful corporations and then capitalism system will fill that void for the government and say, well, we can do what we want. And that's why we have a minimum wage at $7 an hour. And we've had so many problems, and we have such a great divide, and we have CEO pay that has grown, almost 2,000% since 1980. But the minimum wage has only gone up 100%. It used to be $4 an hour. Now it's $7.85. Which is just a joke. I mean, a minimum wage, honestly, the minimum wage should be $22 an hour. I mean, if it rose equivalent to executive pay, it should be, and based on the cost of an average apartment or home, rental market wise, in this state, it has to, you can't rent a 2-bedroom apartment for less than $22 an hour. You just can't.
That's the reason, I understand like the affordable housing kind of talking points, and that's important. I know Emma Adams is really focused on that. I'm more for living wages, because what's affordable is really subjective. I mean, what's affordable to someone who's maybe who's working a minimum wage job is very different than, let's say, a young kid who just graduated from college who's living off of his parents and living in South End, and so I think if we can focus more on a living wage and increasing the wages of individuals, that
one way or the other, we have to address the equity in our communities, and for all, and there's costs that have gotten out of control, like healthcare and college educations, that are barriers to upward mobility. Those are two caps that if you start off life with a 6-figure debt, graduating college, that's going to be really hard to have any upward mobility, which also damages the economy too.
And it's the only
healthcare.
And it's the only debt that can't be taken away through bankruptcy, which is outrageous.
You can't get rid of medical debt or or college education debt. And
that has to be changed. Yeah.
The medical debt, you got people that are going in and that are getting $200,000 and $300,000 and $400,000 hospital bills because they spent 3 or 4 weeks in the ICU saving their life, obviously, which is great. But we shouldn't be in a system where people have to choose life or death based on economics. That actually weakens our economy, putting that burden back on the people. And now that we have record numbers of people uninsured because their insurance was tied to their job and their job doesn't exist anymore, you've got an extra 40, 50 million people that don't have insurance right now that we didn't have before COVID. So what COVID has done is shined a light on our biggest faults. The last 20 years, we should have been investing into our communities, just like the Clinton administration began to do when they began to build down the military and started diverting that money to other things and paying down our debt too. Had W continued that and we started investing in the infrastructure the last 20 years, what a different country we would have.
So I thought it was like we only have like 2 minutes left, but I thought it was kind of not funny, but it was just so typical. I thought of you. I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that. I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that. Trump is being hounded because the things that he said, allegedly said, which we all believe because we know him by now. I mean, he's such full of shit when he says I didn't say it. It's like that means he did say it. I mean, it's like. That's the price you pay for being a bullshit artist is when you want us to believe you, we're not going to believe you. And that's the price that you pay, he should know better than that. And so now he's trying to act like, so he tried to change the topic about the generals or war profiteer, this is profiteers and they're just trying to make money for the big companies. And even though his, whatever, but now he's trying to sound like, I think yesterday he was reading off his little thing because it's almost like, it's like frat guys are running his campaign. And that's the way it feels about like Dan Bishop. It's like his son's friends, because Dan Bishop seems like an older, like he's living like a frat guy at his age. He's living like vicariously through his son. And
it's kind of a bro culture type thing. It's a bro culture / rape culture and violence culture. These people have gotten away with so much for so long. It's very
homoerotic.
Yeah, it is. And they've got like Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and this very rapey, very just out of control. They've never been told no. They've never been checked by society because they are the gold standard of society, cis, white, straight males. And they've gotten away with so much over their lives that I think that's why they're having such a tough time realizing that people are tired of it. Yeah. And they're tired of them steamrolling people and just doing what they want. Like Dan Bishop, Bathroom Dan, just going, well, what's your problem with the bathroom bill? It's almost like, well, screw you, screw the trans people. And it's just like, I don't have to be accountable to anybody. And Trump is that same way. I don't need to be accountable to anybody. I didn't say that, I didn't do that.
The reason I said that was because when you see Dan Bishop and you see his tweets from this weekend and yesterday, he was like a teenage girl tweeting, I'm so happy to be with Donald Trump tomorrow. It was like, you're a damn congressman. Stop back. I mean, he's like a drama. It's like, ooh, I'm so excited to see Donnie. I'm just like,
because he hung his hat in 2019 to the Trump campaign.
But it's not normal, Jenny. It's
weird.
It's bizarre. It's weird. He's a grown ass adult, like taking selfies with Donald. This is
but
weird.
that whole that's what sank those 4 boats in Lake Travis this weekend is this weird fangirling. It is just extremism, this hero worship that they have, that he can do no wrong, that everything he does is perfect. It's the greatest thing ever. He hires the greatest people.
Yeah.
And they've so guzzled the Kool-Aid that they seem above criticism. Like he is like the spray tan Jesus, and he can do no wrong according to that.
Well, we're closing here, so we're going to close out. But really quick question: do you think that their wives and their spouses, they must know they're a little off? They must know, like Dan Bishop's wife must know that he's a little crazy, maybe even on the down low. She must know that her son is a little drama queen.
Right.
They must know that. But somehow they have come to the acceptance of it, because I'd be curious to see, like, to talk to them, and maybe they'll.
But many of them are enablers. Many of them are enablers. A lot of them are enablers. White people, especially with white men, a lot of white women, whether they're the spouses or the parents of the white men, the young white men, they've always become those enablers. Like, oh, don't sentence him to jail time. He just raped that girl at one time, like the Brock Turner thing in Stanford.
That's not
really a good guy. Or the little idiot up in Kenosha that was supposedly cleaning off some graffiti, and so that's okay. I know he shot 3 people and killed 2 of them and shot one of them in the back, but he's really a good kid. His
heart's really not in. I mean, it's like when they say racist stuff. That's not really what my heart is. No, you said it.
I know tons of good kids that go around shooting people. I'm like, no, he's not a good kid. For your ability to be able to go out and shoot strangers and kill them with the intention of killing them, you don't take a gun to a protest without planning on using it.
Exactly.
Point blank. He went out of his way to drive 30 miles to go out and shoot somebody. Yeah. He's not a good person. That's just not a good person.
Well, I did say, I did see yesterday, and I posted it. There was a mom whose son, I think he was a teenager. He has autism, and apparently he was shot by police, and he was running away from them, and he was shot. And she's really upset that the police shot her son. And I jokingly said, it only because, not mean to be facetious, but when this starts happening to white kids, that's when people start to go, oh, maybe the police didn't do, So when I saw that article, I said, oh shit.
Well, I mean, the truth was, that it's just like the women's suffrage movement.
Yeah.
They didn't start taking it serious till high society, older white women were thrown in jails.
Yeah.
And especially when bad things happened to them in jail and they got abused by their jailers. And then all of a sudden these white men are wringing their hands going, oh my God, my wife or my mother is in jail. Yeah. Well, we got to start taking this serious. Yep. And it's usually when white people, and especially white women, start getting put in harm's way or getting affected by this. And you can go out throughout history, and it's that same lineage. Like when they were passing the Civil Rights Act, they weren't going to put gender in that Civil Rights Act in the 1960s. But then they realized that a Black woman would have more power than a white woman. And so they put gender in there. And so they, because of that, because the conservatives brought up the point, well, what about white women? And so it always goes back to white people. Yeah. And it always goes back to something has to happen to white people before they will do something about it. I agree. And it's just the truth. If a Black or a Latinx person gets shot in the streets, they're probably thugs. They're probably rapists. They're probably murderers. They probably aren't here legally. Yeah. Like Obama wasn't born here. Exactly. We hear that time and time again, that they start putting the victim on trial.
Yes.
And with white people, when O.J. Simpson's a prime example, reason white people were so pissed about the O.J. Simpson thing is he got off the hook for killing a white woman.
Yep.
And that's the truth. If if O.J. Simpson's ex-wife was black and she died, that story would have lasted about a week and nobody would have even cared.
Well, yeah, I mean, here in one of the Panthers players, about 8 years ago or whatever, he killed his girlfriend or his wife. I mean, I guess put her in a truck and killed her and whatever, and people weren't that upset about it here, but she'd been white.
And we didn't know before O.J. Simpson killed his ex-wife.
Yeah.
We didn't even know who she was.
Yeah.
I don't even remember even thinking about her before he killed her. And afterwards, we saw her blonde picture. You couldn't turn on the news for at least 2 years without having a story about her or him, or his attorney Johnny Cochran. And it was just constant churn about the O.J. Simpson trial.
Well, that's what I say, Jenny. If I ever go missing, don't put on the flyer Latinx gay person missing. Put little white girl missing, and they will find me in a second.
I'll make sure I get a picture of you from the archives that has the little blonde wig on too. Like we're looking for little Miss C, and
exactly. All right, all right. We'll see you next week. Bye. Miss you.
See y'all.
Bye.